Imagine this. Your thoughts, your beliefs, your feelings. This is your house. But is it your home? Hi, I'm Nelson DeMello, and join me as we try to find our home beyond our borders.
I don't know. I think that's fine.
Yeah, that's a good take.
And so what was my process? My goodness, finally I'm here. What was my process? So I talked about how my addiction was a bib for me. It was, it was soothing emotionally. It fulfilled me and all these things. So I reverse engineered that, right? This is where I understood sexuality, my sexuality, and all of these things. And I healed those areas of my life. And then for a while, I'm talking close to a year, I was like, I don't have a problem anymore with this thing. This is great. Because no, it wasn't a year. It was a couple months. I'd say 6-7 months or something. And I was porn free, and it was because I just healed that part of me. I can't remember like exactly. It wasn't a magic word. It wasn't anything, but it was just giving myself compassion, giving myself but it wasn't giving myself. It was accepting God's love and God's grace to fill those holes, understand how He loves me, and like the intimacy that He created me with, the intimacy that He wants to know me with, or like for us to be, one, to be known. And so slowly through, pastoral counsel, through reading the Word and through therapy, I healed, those things, those facets in my life. Then, guess what? It became there was a different reason. I think then it was like a moral thing, like, oh, this isn't actually a bad thing. And this is like my brain. When I start feeling feeling the hormones, my brain will give me a logical line of thinking of why it's totally fine to relieve myself. And this line of thinking is essentially, one thing is you already thought about it, so you've sinned. So doing it doesn't make a difference. The other thing is you're not hurting anybody, right? Like you just the line of thinking of this isn't that bad. And that carried me, honestly. I was like, what I'm doing isn't bad, especially now that I'm not dependent on it, like emotionally dependent. Like this isn't an idol in my life. But what ended up happening was I started seeing the physical consequences of that. I started not hanging out with people because, again, I didn't need to anymore. I then saw, like, I couldn't have a normal conversation with any female. Like, for one, like, I didn't talk to them because they were all sexualized. And if I did talk to them, it was flirty and this and that. I'm like, those aren't my intentions. I don't want that, actually. And like my mind frame, I started seeing that switch again. And I was like, and there was no loophole to it. There was no, well, if I do it once every 2 weeks, or if I watched without completion, if I didn't, like if I've tried every loophole way to eat the cake and have it too, and there wasn't. And then I started getting into the science of it and started understanding why my brain wanted it so much, and why my brain was tricking me into doing it. And then I started researching on the artist. The artist is crazy. The actors. Oh man, I'm sorry. That was crazy. Oh man, yeah. I can't believe. Yeah. The artists. Yeah, all the Jackson Pollocks that they make. Oh man, only some of y'all will get that. And from the two that watch this, no one's gonna get that. Oh my gosh. No, that's a good one. You just look up Jackson Pollock. It's an artist who just throws paint on a. You already got the idea, right? So, anyways, the actors. I started researching like the amount of abuse, the like just what goes on in the background, and like I just fortified my brain with knowledge, right? What my brain was doing, why it was doing it, the actual reality of adult film industry, like the goals, the everything, right? And that so understanding all of that, understanding the consequences, that there is no good outcome, right? This is where I started developing that idea that like it's not about good or bad. It's about destructive and constructive. It's about disharmony and harmony. It's about your ultimate goal, whether you realize it or not, is to be in harmony with the world. Whether that's timeline, whether that's environment, whether that's like things need to be congruent in your life. And there is no congruency. Like from soul to spirit to being to material being. Soul, well, I guess opposite. Spirit, soul, being. Soul, I think this is like a Jewish definition. I say that because, translated over to Christian definition. Soul is like your personality, your thoughts, your feelings, like the thing that makes you internally, that's you. That's your soul. And then, your material being, and then your spirit, which is something, I don't know. But yeah. So how can we have a consistent line that goes through these three things? This kind of congruency, this kind of peace, tranquility, like I think we're all trying to get there. And I use peace and tranquility. That's not necessarily what we're after, but we are after this congruency. Like if like my soul is if I have the soul of an artist, let's say, just to make it easy, am I living according to that? And is my spirit then, is my soul then kind of like, I don't know, being guided by my spirit? I don't, whatever that looks like, I don't know. But the idea is there's this line, this consistent line with no bumps, no obstacles, no filth, no gunk, that doesn't allow for these things to move smoothly. And so now you think about what's destructive and what's constructive. What brings me closer to that? What brings me farther away from that? I think when we see it that way, when we see life that way instead of good or bad, we have deeper motivations to do the right thing, the good thing. Because what's right for you isn't right for me, right? But it's never going to be wrong. Like if right is a target, if I were to let's say it's soccer, right? And then there's there's an obstacle in the middle and there's the goal, right? You can curve the ball around, you can chip the ball over, lob the ball over, right? You can, let's say there's a wall, I can blast it to hit the wall, to hit the goal, whatever. There's many ways to get there. And this is where your soul comes in and this and that. But missing is still missing. When you miss, when you don't hit the target, you don't hit the target. But how you hit the target, from where you hit the target, whatever you hit the target, that's personal, right? So that's something that's like a second layer. Right. It was first fighting with the emotional stuff, realizing that it was an idol in my life, having to dismantle the idol, give all the energy and desire and the emotional satisfaction. It was my God. It really was. God, his service to us, whatever. That sounds bad. But there's a sense of he gives stuff. He satisfies things. He does do that. It's worship, right? To give him our potholes to fill, to pursue him, like have him to be the desire of our heart, right? This is worship. To allow something else to do that for us in place of him is idolatry. This can be children, like good things can be God things, right? Like our children can fill our potholes, and our children can satisfy us, and we can make them the center of our desire, right? And what I mean by filling our potholes, not like they're going to be our therapist, but we can live through them. We can vicariously live through them. Our job can do the same thing. Like, oh, I'm feeling insecure and I'm going to work hard, and that's going to satisfy that need. And like all the ugly stuff, it's going to soothe the ugly stuff, and it's going to be my main pursuit. It's going to be my passion, my love, right? Those two things. This is worship. And so I realized that adult films and my lust was that in my life. It was my God. And so that was the first thing, dismantling that, breaking ties with it, connecting to God. Okay, I did it. I don't feel the need, the power, the impulse. I remember, and I joke around a lot about this, but I remember like it got to points where I didn't want to, but I did so bad that like I'd be staring at myself. Why am I doing this? I don't want to do this. And go on to do it. Like I literally, I was like, I don't want to do, like, I don't feel like it. I'm too tired. I couldn't stop. Going from that to being able to say no, because I didn't have those strong ties anymore, was an immense challenge, and it was crazy. And then it became the moral dilemma of like, whatever, like it doesn't matter. Cool. It's not my idol anymore. So this is a fun little project thing. And honestly, I think George Jenko went through this. And I mean, I keep throwing people, well, I mean, they're public people, but when he talks about, getting rid of marijuana for the last time, he was like, I knew it was wrong, whatever, but I'd smoke a J and, to calm things down, whatever, The second thing of like, but the outcome that I had was not what I wanted, not being 100%, not being, present, whatever the case was for him specifically. He realized, oh, there's physical outcomes that I don't want in my life. So I need to get rid of this thing. It wasn't in harmony of who he was created to be and who he wanted to be, like these things did not harmonize, and we did not harmonize that for him. And so he got rid of it. And in the same way, like that was another layer. The last layer, which is like where I'm like, this is just a thorn in my side. Like I will never. And this is where like people, like when I hear about deliverance, and just this ministry of like, no, God wants to heal everything and make all things new, and you will never have a problem with sin, and you won't have a problem with this if you're like completely aligned to God. It's bull crap. I'm sorry, it is. I am wired for addiction. I am. My brain is wired for it. My brain is like, and this is like 50% of why I'm doing this is to show you that you're going to battle your whole life with sin, and you're still closer than ever to God. And why I say this is because the last thing was I did it just because I was bored, because I had no sense of direction. I can't beat that, because there's times in my life where life is going to be boring. There's times in my life that things are going to be stressful. And no matter how long, like I don't do it, it would be, and like, cause the longer it goes, like it really is like not feeding an animal, like let's say I have all of my demons in cages, and not feeding them shrivels them, and they're weak, but they're not dead, and they won't be dead until like purification, like till I die. They're not going to die. They're not dead. They're just very, very weak. Some of them, other demons are like my shadow, you know what I mean? Like, and I don't recognize that yet, because we get closer and closer to God, the more things are revealed to us. And so this idea, like, I'll give an example of, so I've had all that figured out. The moral aspect, I like completely understood. Okay. Like, it's like maturity. Like, I know that sounds silly, but it's like, oh, I don't do things because I want to anymore. I do things because it's necessary. Like mowing the lawn, paying bills, the cooking cooking for yourself. And, being an adult, it's like, oh, I don't do things because, I want to, because that's not how life works. You don't get to do everything you want. There's some things that it's just good for you. Like hygiene is good for you. I wish I would listen to myself. No, but you know what I mean? It's that thing of like, you're just doing what's better for you in the long run. Maturity, and that's what it kind of took, to be honest. That's what it took to click. The second time is like, just long term, this is better. It's just better for me to not do this thing. Wait, hold up. If at any point in this you said, dang, I never thought about it like that, please subscribe. What are you doing, man? I'm trying to pay my bills. Okay, anyways, let's get back to the serious stuff. All right, see it. But here's where, like, all of the shame and da-da-da, but this is I'll explain the process. Okay, so this is what happens. I'm on my merry day. Life is fine, again, at this point, I have child block on my phone. Okay, I can't get on Twitter. I can't get on Reddit, because you could literally search anything and find anything. And then obviously adult sites and any kind of links that would go to adult sites and stuff like that. So spam, I couldn't open on my phone or my computer, and this and that. But here's the deal. I get on one day, I went to go check my email on my work computer, and I saw that I had like 5,000 spam emails, and I was like, oh, I got to delete this. So I click on it, and then it's a bunch of spam, obviously, to like, adult friend finding websites or whatever. And that takes me down a rabbit hole. And that's the thing. It's like, I didn't even think about it. I wasn't even thinking about it. That wasn't a thing like to be grasped. That was a thing completely forgotten. But as soon as I saw the opportunity, my brain made that connection. Like an arrow that pierced through like all of the forest and hits the target. I was like, dopamine. And so I just scrolled through, like clicked through all of the spam and went on all the links, and I was like, what am I doing? Right. And so then shame hits. I feel bad and this and that. And then I remind myself all of the things. Why I think the process was fast for me is because, again, I understand, like there's processes, like while I was pastoring, there were seasons of my life where I struggled. And that was a huge shame thing because of a pride thing, right? Like, I'm the pastor, I shouldn't be struggling with anything. That delayed the healing process. What happened? Or same thing where like I was researching something for work or whatever. I go on a Reddit link, and then to find the answers, I find the answers. I start exploring somehow, right? Because this is how it always happens, right? Like, I don't know how many times I've like scrolled through Instagram or scrolled through TikTok or whatever. Like, oh, I hope I don't encounter, whatever. And, I'll stay there 4 hours if I have to until I find the thing. And I'm like, oh no, I found the thing that triggers, you know. There's this like app organization called Freedom Fighters. And that was part of the research of understanding how like the addiction works in my head. And there's like it's literally a snowball effect. And if you, depending on where you cut it off, the easier it is to reset and not do anything. If you go too far, their advice, and I like, it's counterintuitive. Their advice is like, don't waste your time fighting when you're in too deep. And I'm paraphrasing, and I might be paraphrasing wrong, right? But like, if you are like step 9 out of 10 of doing the thing you don't want to do, just go to 10 already, get it over with, reset, have grace with yourself, and start fighting. Like, you're on step 1, cut it off. Step 1, cut it off. Step 1, cut it off. Sometimes you skip to step 5. Like, let's say step 1 is like getting on Instagram when you're feeling a type of way, right? That's step 1. You cut it off. Like, no. I'm going to go work out. I'm going to go eat. I'm going to do something different. Cool. Let's say step 3 or step 5 is like, you're scrolling not for anything. You're scrolling because, you want to keep up with friends. You want to see, I don't know, soccer highlights, whatever you're doing. And then you run across something and you're like, oh, snap. Okay. Step 5 is going to be harder. Like when you're in that moment, it's like harder to like get off, but you can, right? I'm not going to describe 9, but you get the idea. Like when you're in too deep, just get it over with, start over, have grace with yourself. Okay. So what happens is this thing of, I can't tell anyone, and this can't be me. Like, I can't be doing this thing, trying to white knuckle, dude. Oh my gosh. And so it's just this cycle of shame, cycle of things, like, man. And so that, like, I went through all that, and I learned that like it's unlucky. This is a side thing. It's unlucky that some of us, our struggles are like taboo, bad things, right? Some of us struggle again with lust, with drugs, with like the classic, this is a bad thing, this is wrong, why do you do it kind of deal. I don't know who's worse off, but there's some people that deal with bitterness their whole life. They do everything right, but they're just unhappy. That is equally as destructive, incongruent, that is equally unharmonious to what you were meant to be. And so like I kind of had to accept the fact, that's one thing I had to accept. We all struggle with things, right? Some of us are going to struggle with like the newspaper scandal stuff, and other people are just going to be jerks. I didn't choose what I would struggle with. I didn't like make my character and say, oh yeah, I want to struggle with, addiction and identity. I'm like, oh yeah, this is the perfect combination. And so that's one thing. It's like, okay, we all struggle with stuff, and sure, mine is like, you don't want to talk, like no one wants to talk about it, but it's all brokenness. It's all unbeing. It's all not being harmonious, which we all have the problem with. The second thing is realizing that the second thing I realized is that I can, because I was wired this way, like, I mean, maybe that, I don't know. It might help some, it might hurt others, but it's this idea that like this is who you are in the moment, and it's not who you will be at the end. It's not who you will be tomorrow. Like this thing of like, this, like attacking the hopelessness, attacking this idea like, I will never change, I will never get better, I will never, getting that vocabulary out of your system. And this thing of like, when you do relapse, you're not reverting to that person anymore. So it is being compassionate with yourself. So that's really what it is. I became quicker at being compassionate and being graceful with myself, allowing for that grace to just cover me and like protect me. Because like, yeah, this one might not resonate with everyone, but I understand, because of the way I understand influence and all of these things, attacking me. I don't take it like it's not personal, like a hungry man will steal. And if I have compassion for that and understand like, man, your situation, the way, your life turned out got you to this place where that's what you think you need. Like I have grace for you, and I know God has grace for you. So in the same way, like, why can't you have that same grace with yourself? Why can't you see yourself as, oh man, yeah, some poor man resort to stealing because it meets their needs. And like, it's this, I don't want to say that, oh, the more spiritually mature you become, the less you sin or whatever the case is. Because honestly, like, I look at Paul, I was actually reading Romans the other day. Romans is his last letter before he dies. And he was still talking mess. Like, he was still like, oh no, this was 2 Corinthians 2. Never mind. Yeah, never mind. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to, sorry, it's all mixed up in my head. I've been listening to the Bible, and so I'll listen to like 20 chapters a day. But I just don't, but my point is like his problem with Peter, it was only dealt with later in his life. Paul's problem with Peter for being hypocrites, and then his problem with Mark for, not being about it or whatever the case is, they only reconciled way later. And it's like, that is an immaturity that like there's like insecurities that you see Paul go through. And it's like, dude, you've seen the third heaven. You've seen like, you have all of these experiences with God and you're still like begging, not begging for attention, but like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just like fighting for attention. I don't know. But my point is that like, and I used to conflate these two things where like emotional maturity meant spiritual maturity. And that's not necessarily the case. I think spiritual, like especially in this case, spiritual maturity is understanding that nothing you do, like it's so funny. It's fundamentally understanding the basics and how it applies to every single facet of your life. That is spiritual maturity. It's just knowing the fundamentals and basics. This is like, it's like Mamba mentality in terms of fundamentals, right? Where he was like, he could dribble with both hands, he could shoot with both hands, he could, do like everything. He knew technique 110%. And so he was good. He was versatile. He could do anything. And in the same way, like spiritual maturity, it's understanding that God has grace for me and nothing I do will change that grace for me. And nothing I do changes that love for me. It's like that only applies, like, it's like, this is true except when. Deleting the except when is spiritual maturity. And so because I can rest in the fact, like, I mean, think about it. And I know this is like, it's like beating a dead horse, but when you are feeling shame about your sin, you're looking at yourself. Your eyes got off of God. You stopped looking at Jesus. You stopped looking at the cross. You stopped looking at God to look at yourself and say, oh, look at the piece of crap that I am. Nothing should take your eyes off of Jesus. Nothing should take your eyes off of God. No matter what it is, no matter what you do. Like, this destroys shame. This destroys the work of the devil. And so that's why my recovery process, when I relapse or whatever the case is relatively fast. It's the span of a few days, because like you did do the thing you said you weren't going to do. You did, like, it's real, right? I understand that. And you can't avoid not feeling the ways you do, but lingering on self-absorption, pity, like lingering on like, oh, I blah, blah, blah. It's not about you, dude. It's never about you, even when you do the wrong thing, because it's not about you when you do the right thing. It's not about you. Like that, and that's counterintuitive a little bit, because like you can't exist outside of yourself, right? But try. No, I'm just kidding. It's, I mean, I know, I guess there's debate about John saying, I must decrease that he must increase. But if you decrease and God increases, of course, maybe he was talking about fame, but I always took that as like a pie chart of my inner being, right? Because that goes into like when Paul talks about, I think in Colossians, where he talks about, it's not I who live, but Christ in me. For Christ to live in me 100% means that I die 100%. That doesn't mean, though, that my personality dies. It means my ego does, Like I'm still me. I'm just the Jesus version of me, and not the ego-driven version of me. And so ego is no good. This seems like a natural end to things, so I'm just going to end it here. And I'll listen to it, figure out if I missed anything. But I just, I want to pray for anyone who's healing, who's struggling with addiction, God, that's dealing with any identity issues, any issues that feel permanent in their life. God, I pray that you can show them who they truly are. Give them a glimpse, a vision of their congruent selves, God. The self that was created, formed, molded by you. God, the version that we were made to be. God, I pray that you can give us a desire, God, a Psalm 37:4 desire for you, God. As we delight in you, you give us all the desires in our heart. God, that this becomes a driving factor in those who have issues with addiction, God, issues like the negative of ADHD and can't overcome them, God. That you become our greatest passion and greatest desire, God. That we can be intense, on fire for you. That we can grow and mold, God. That relationship with you, that honesty, that trust. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Hey guys, thank you so much for going on this journey with me. If you like the content, please like, subscribe, follow, and remember, there is more to life, and that is good news. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day.